And so good morning, good evening to you. Me, it's morning here in our nation. So welcome to Autism Family Support Group, and this is actually part two, part two of improving communications and language with Jennifer. So let me just share my screen first with you. Okay, so this is our practical guide for home intervention, and let me just do this. Okay, and this is improving communications and language part 2, okay, by Miss Jennifer Llewellyn. And before that, I would like to introduce her, although she's already uh, been at home with us here in the group. But Miss Jennifer is an experienced special education teacher. I mean, she has very long years of being a special education teacher and in ABA. And she has degree in speech and hearing science and MED in special education and rehabilitation. The last time that we had our uh, webinar like this, it's really a great time of practical things that we can really apply at home. So we have made up to do a part 2 because there's so much more to share and we have no more time during that seminar. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Miss Jennifer to do the webinar for us in improving communications and language part 2. So let me just,
Thank you.
I will just have to do this for the speaker's view. Okay. So I will just have to. Okay. So Jennifer I'm giving you the floor now.
Okay. All right. So this is, some of it may be a little bit of a review from last time, but I'm going to be going into more detail and kind of going into ending this with some sign language that you can use at home as well to help your children before they are verbal communicators. So our first slide is talking about making connections and the importance of nonverbal imitation. So when typically developing children are born, they naturally make connections with the people and the environment around them. So they just automatically look at you, at your face, and look around to see what people are doing, and then they start wanting to copy when they get a little older. They start copying like gross motor movements, they start copying language, and they start babbling and then start talking, and they just naturally want to kind of be like their parents or copy what they're seeing people doing. But children on the spectrum typically don't have that just natural motivation to make those connections with the world around them. They prefer to be alone, be by themselves. So it is our job to help them make those connections and teach them how to make connections with people and the environment. So making connections with people and the environment is the foundation for language, communication, social skills, and building those relationships. Being engaged with students, when I get them for my preschool classroom, they'll just be singing songs over and over, scripting songs that they have memorized. So if I recognize a song, I'll start singing it along with them. You can comment on what they're doing and what they're saying. You can join them in what they're doing, even if they're and start playing with the toy right next to them, start talking about what you're doing and what they're doing, what color the toy is, maybe modeling the correct way to play with the toy if they're just spinning with it, those kind of things. You can also use hand over hand and physical assistance to do nonverbal imitation and complete tasks. So, and to show them how to use toys correctly. If, they have a puzzle in front of them and they're just like picking up the pieces and looking at them, but not actually doing the puzzle, then you can go ahead and take their hand in your hand and help them put the pieces where they go to complete the puzzle and talk to them about the puzzle while you're doing it. Those kind of things is how we can start building those connections. Also giving them opportunities to do chores and get some responsibility so that they feel like they're contributing to the household. It can just be very simple chores where maybe you go grocery shopping and they're helping take things out of the bags and handing them to you. Or you're helping them put them away where they go. Or if you're emptying the dishwasher, they can help. You can help them sort the silverware, and it can be a matching activity. Just some of those kind of things where they are, contributing to the household. You can also model language for them, which we will get into more detail on how to do that. But modeling language for a child who's nonverbal is extremely important. It needs to be done constantly, all day long, all the time. And the more they hear it, the faster they'll start picking it up and using it. But we will get into that in more detail. And then, so yeah, just basically involving them in what's going on around them in your home. And also, a lot of people think that if your child is nonverbal, that they also don't understand what is being said, but that is absolutely not true. I have lots of children who don't talk at all, but they understand everything you say to them. So it's very important to be talking to them about what you're doing, what they're doing, labeling things, building that vocabulary for them before they're starting to talk, because they are soaking it all in. It may not feel like they're, paying attention or engaged, but yes, they do hear everything you're saying and can comprehend that. Language stems from imitation. So I already went in through how typically developing infants naturally start imitating what they're seeing at a pretty early age. But when a child on the spectrum is so in their own head, they need somebody to show them how to imitate something that they're seeing. So what that looks like is if you have a child, and usually typically kids on the spectrum love music.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, can you unmute yourself? I'm sorry, I was able to.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
how long was I muted for?
maybe 30 seconds. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
Maybe 30 seconds. Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay. I'll go back then. Okay. So language stems from imitation. Typically, like I had said before, typically developing infants just naturally start imitating their parents or people around them and wanting to do things that they're doing. You can get them to wave. You can get them to play peekaboo and play those games. But typically a child on the spectrum will not have that just need and want to engage with the people and be paying attention to what people are doing around them. So it's our job to help them learn how to imitate, since language is a two-way street, right? It's not just one way in communication. So they need to learn that when you say something, they can learn how to say it as well. So that they have to learn how to imitate what they see first before they will start imitating language. So, so typically children on the spectrum love music. They're visual learners, so they love to watch videos. I play a lot of videos, YouTube videos for my students that help them learn to imitate movements that go along with the songs. So I'll be going into what some of those videos are a little later too, but teaching those gross motor movements, like you can do the head, shoulders, knees, and toes song, if you're happy and you know it, some of those the wheels on the bus song, and have them, while you're doing the motions, have them follow along too. And you do that by using hand over hand. And it's helpful if you have another person with you that's sitting behind them, helping them do the same motions with you, so they kind of learn that. It's a little more tricky if it's just you and the child one-on-one, but it still is doable for them to do that. Touching your body part, getting them used to saying nose, head, shoulders, and getting them to copy what you're doing. Clap, say do this, and then take their hands and make them clap. And then they need to that verbal praise when they do it. Even if you help them do something, they need to be praised. Like, oh, wow, you did a good job. You did what I did, or you did the same. So, and you want to use highly reinforcing and motivating activities. They're not just naturally motivated to do these things. So you have to find things that they really, really love and use that as the motivation to start imitating. You can also, if they love to blow bubbles, then you can blow a bubble first. Oh, do this and blow bubble, and then say your turn. And then you give them the wand and help them learn to blow the bubbles. And then you take it back, my turn, and then you blow, and then you do that as well. And so it becomes, they learn how to take turns, and that it's give and take, and that it's also being engaged in what is happening and what people are doing. I did that. Okay. So then some of the YouTube videos that I have found very helpful to learn how to do imitation is Dr. Jean's Banana Dance. That's JEAN''. She is a speech therapist, and she makes videos for children, but it's just repetitive, and it's using gross motor movements. And so I stand right behind my students and I help them move their arms and do the motions with the songs until I can see that they're starting to do it on their own. So Jack Hartman, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he is amazing at making videos geared toward children. He has an if you're happy and you know it video that I love to do with my kids, and I can move my body like anything. So again, you are standing right behind them. You are being their body, and you're helping them do the motions as the song is being played. If they're just watching a video and and the video, instead of just having them sit there staring at it, talk to them about what they're seeing on the video. Oh, are you watching this? Oh, they're doing this on the video, and talk to them while they're watching, and maybe like ask them questions or making comments about the video. And then teaching them the sign language, which is what we are going to talk about at the end. I'm going to show you some signs that will, they'll have lots of opportunities to use at home. A lot of people think, sign language is only for individuals who are hearing impaired. That's not necessarily true. It's also used for children who are nonverbal, because children pick up sign language much quicker than they pick up verbal language. Also, you cannot pull words out of a child, but you can help them make the signs and help them do the signs at the right times to help make those connections with what they're either making requests or they are just looking at things and commenting and things like that, as the same as pictures. Last time I talked about the picture exchange communication system and how to use that to teach that, get kids to start initiating language and making requests. You want to use that as well. But the same with the pictures and sign language, you also want to pair it with the verbal word for that sign as well. As soon as they're using the sign consistently, you can then fade out that sign and just just model the word for them as they're signing. And I also do the signs as well when I am giving an instruction. Like if I'm wanting a child to sit, I'll say, okay, sit or stand up. And so they see you doing the hand motion as you're saying it. So they're more likely to pay attention to what you're saying and then go ahead and then do it after that. So creating a language-rich environment we're going to go back to talking about how to model language. So you can use things that they just through your normal routine, bathing, getting dressed, brushing your teeth, eating meals. You can do it during play. You can do it while you're out. If you're going for a walk, talk about what you're seeing, start labeling things, building that vocabulary for them. Using pictures to support your words is very helpful for children on the spectrum, because they're, like I said earlier, visual learners. They'll more likely pay attention. So at work, when I teach my special needs preschool class, I have a lanyard and I have pictures on my lanyard that I show as I'm talking. If I need a child to wait, I will hold up the wait picture as I say wait, or oh, it's time to clean up. You want to show the picture of cleaning up as you're saying it, and then they learn that that picture means that, and then eventually you can just use the picture or hold up the picture, or they can use the picture to show you, and they know that that means cleanup. So modeling language, I had talked last time about a child's language level. So you want to either stay at or just above their language level when you're modeling language. If you use too many words, they're just going to tune you out and they're not going to be like focused on what you're saying. So it's very important that if they're nonverbal, then they're at the nonverbal language level, and you just want to model one word and one word only for them. You have to choose, and you have to be consistent when you're labeling things that you use. You say the same word for that. You don't want to switch from like you don't want to call something a couch one time and a sofa the next time, or a cup next time and a bottle the next time. And so you want to make sure that whatever words you're using to label items stays consistent, so that, and the more they hear it, the more that the faster they will learn it and pick it up and start using it themselves. So you want to give them the most opportunities to use the language as possible. For example, you can set up the environment at home to create that need for them. Children on the spectrum typically won't talk unless they have a reason to. If you are right there handing them stuff, if you're so in tune to your child and oh, they want a snack, here you go. Oh, they want to watch this on the iPad. Oh, here you go. Oh, they want to do this now. Here you go. And they have to do nothing, say nothing to get it, then they're not going to have a reason to talk. So you have to set up the environment to make them have to work for it. So You can put their favorite snacks, their favorite activities up high, out of reach, out of sight, so that they have to come to you and ask for it. For example, if they absolutely love goldfish, crackers, the little crackers, snacks, then you would maybe want to have the goldfish where they can see it and they know where it is, but they cannot get it themselves. Because if it's just on the counter, in the pantry, at their level, they could just go in, get it, open it, start eating it on their own, then they had no opportunities to communicate with you on what they're wanting. So what you'd want to do is keep it up high where they can see it. And if they're pointing to it, or they'll take your hand and walk you over to it and try to get you to reach for it for them, that's when you want to model the language. Goldfish. So, or if you do the sign language, you can just do eat for any kind of food. You can go eat, and then you would take their hand and make them do eat, and then you give them the goldfish. But another thing you want to do is parents will tend to give them a whole bowl of goldfish or a whole Ziploc bag or a whole bunch of them at one time. And that's fine, but if you do that, they will not need to ask for goldfish again for a while. And then they will not have opportunities to practice that. It won't be consistent. And remember, we want consistency and repetition. The more they hear it being used, the more the opportunities they have to use it, the faster they will pick it up on their own. So you would just want to give, and they probably won't like it at first until they're used to it, but you just want to give them maybe 3 or 4 goldfish. Here you go. Put it back up high. Start it all over again. Make them ask for it again. Up, eat. Or if they can talk some, maybe they can say fish or gold. And we do accept partial. If they can't say the whole word, but they get part of it, the first sound, the first part of it, then we accept that as a correct response. But then you still want to model the whole word correctly for them. And so if they just go like fish, and you know that they want goldfish, but they can't say goldfish yet. Oh, you want goldfish? Here you go. Good job telling me you want goldfish. So that's, and then once they can say the one word to make requests, then they're labeling things. They're saying ball, they're saying more, they're saying drink, they're labeling things that they see. Then you can start putting 2 words together for them, and then keep on building on that. But it has to be only when they are being independent, they are saying it on their own, and it's consistent, and you're pretty sure that they've got this, they've mastered it, now I can move them to the next level. Also, what you want to make sure you're doing is giving children a good amount of wait time. Some children process information slower, so you have to give them time to process what they're supposed to say and give them time to say it. I had somebody ask me at the end of the last one, well, my daughter will only say something after I say it first. Okay, then if that's happening, then you want to hold off longer on giving that verbal prompt and the model. You can do a partial, like maybe hold it up and like make a face like you're waiting for them to say something, and then see if that gets them to say it, or just put it back and walk away. And when they get like, oh no, I want this, then eventually they'll say it. I had a student at the beginning of this year who I knew she could talk because she was always singing songs and scripting things in her head, but she had no functional language at all. And I knew she wanted a fire truck because I had it and she kept trying to grab it from me, and I would model fire truck, refused to say it. So I didn't give her the fire truck until she chose to say fire truck. And it would take one time 45 minutes of me saying fire truck every time she reached for the fire truck, fire truck. And finally, after 45 minutes, she got frustrated and I went, fire truck, like that. It was, oh, thank you, here you go. Good job saying fire truck. And then, so you have to be willing to get in there and be as stubborn as they are not wanting to say it as you are with them wanting to say it. So that is what it does take. If you give in too easily and just get tired of waiting or get too frustrated and just give it to them, then they're going to know, oh, I don't have to say it. I don't have to put in the effort. I don't have to, there, she's just going to give it to me. So I'm one of those people that I'm like, no, I'm not going to give in. I'm fine if you don't have the fire truck. It's fine with me. If you don't want it badly enough to say it, then you're not going to get it. And by the end of the year, she was talking, she could make requests. She could, if I offered one thing and she didn't want that, she'd be like, no, this. And so it has really paid off and she's able to do that. You can also work on answering yes, no questions. Do you want this? And then they can either say yes or no. And if you're going to work on that, you have to know if they definitely want it. If you know they want it, then you can work on yes, or using the sign for yes, or saying yes. So yes and no is a really good activity. And I was doing that with my preschoolers as well, who could not answer yes, no questions. I had a green yes button and a red no button and on Velcro and laminating, and I would hold it up in front of them. And I would know that they wanted something because they chose it all the time and always wanted to do it. And I would say, do you want sand? Because they all love kinetic sand. Do you want sand? And then I would model yes. And I would take their hand, have them pull off the yes button that was on Velcro, and then give it to me. Oh, yes, okay, you want sand, here you go. So that's kind of how you teach that answering yes, no questions. And then eventually you want to be able to have them make a choice. If you hold up two items, do you want this or this? And then you teach them to make a choice. And you have something they really want and something they absolutely don't want. And then if they pick the thing that they don't want because they don't understand choices, then you have to make sure that that's what you give them, even if that's not what they really wanted. So those are some ways that you can set up a language-rich environment, as well as just, that constant modeling. Model what you're doing. Oh, I'm washing dishes, I'm scrubbing them. Oh, this is a plate, I'm putting it in the dishwasher. Those kind of things. And they're hearing you're talking, but when you're just modeling language specifically for them to label things, you just want to make sure that they are, if you see them just playing with a car, oh, car, and then you can work on car. Or the next time that they're playing, you can work on stop and go, up, stop, and then you push it again, go. And so you have to decide ahead of time what you are specifically going to work on. I'm going to go through real quick and see some of the, when should I go over the comments in the chat?
You can go over it as you teach if it's already related to your teaching. Yeah, you can answer it. It's up to you.
So John, you said putting words to things is such a big deal. I verbalize a lot of what I watch and grow emotional intelligence. Yes. So that is true. It is a very big deal for them to hear it. If you have any questions about the topic, okay, just type it in the chat. How do you fade out the visual prompting? Oh, that's a great question. So a lot of people, when they learn PECS, which is the Picture Exchange Communication System, I think Josie was talking about some people just get stuck at that level of handing a picture to communicate. The important thing is you're always modeling the verbal language. So if they're giving you a picture to make a request or doing the sign, every time they want more, you're saying more, even if they're just doing this, You're saying more and then giving them more. If you're helping them make the sign, you're still going more. Once they can verbally say more, then you don't expect the sign anymore, and you don't model the sign along with the word. You only do the word at that point. So I hope that answered your question, but you want to make sure you don't fade out the visual prompt until they have the verbal word for that visual or the phrase that they need to say. John, you had said you wonder if it would help autistics more than other kids if you told them more about why you're having them do things you're having them do. Probably just depends on age anyhow. I'm not sure I exactly understand your question. Do you want to explain that a little bit more? I guess I had just said that children with autism don't really have that natural intrinsic motivation, which I talked about last time, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. They don't have that need to just automatically make connections, and they don't learn by watching other people as naturally as typically developing children do. So we have to step in then and teach them all of the skills that typically developing kids just pick up on their own.
Right. Yeah, and I guess I was just thinking, well, I'm more your cerebral type of person, and some autistics are, and I feel like getting the big picture helps me a lot with dealing with these sometimes very frustrating baby steps, which at my age are still happening. So
yes, and we're always
that
taught
helps.
with a lot of kids on the spectrum, especially at the younger age, you want to break things up into the small steps, which is called scaffolding. So if you want to teach a skill of like brushing your teeth, you just start with the first step. Okay, we're going to get our toothbrush and put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. That's all you work on, you know, when you're trying to build independence. Then once they can do that independently, then you add, hey, let's turn on the water and, you know, get your brush wet. Then you add those two steps together. And then once they can do that, you know what I mean? So then you just constantly build on that, because it can be very, you want to set these children up for success and make them feel successful and not just overwhelm them. And a lot of children on the spectrum can have anxiety and just they'll give up and not even try if they think they're not going to be able to do it. So that's why you just want to have it.
And I guess that's what I mean, is that maybe I wonder if experimenting with what you just did, kind of explaining it to adults, talking to them like they're adults, maybe. I don't know. That's kind of what my question was meaning.
I would like to ask to add on that, because most of the mistakes that most parents do is that to think that their kids doesn't understand. You know, a neurotypical child or a normal child without autism, they will always ask questions, right? They will always ask why and why and why and why. And I'm sure, I also assume that most of our kids with autism, they also have those curiosity. And sometimes when we ask them to do just do this, do this, do this, or do something, and without even explaining why you have to do this, it really frustrates some of our kids sometimes, especially those kids who are already curious and have questions. That's just for additional thought. That's it.
Yes, exactly. And so I guess what I was trying to say too is when you're kind of talking about what you're doing, it's fine to kind of go on and, oh, I'm doing dishes and now I'm putting them in the dishwasher, and you're kind of talking about what you're doing and they're hearing that. But when you're specifically wanting to model the language for them, and like label things and like ball or car or cup, you just want to use like one word, because they're not going to just all of a sudden be able to belt out a sentence or a phrase if they're not even talking yet. So they start off with the one word stage, and then they go into two and start putting two words together. Then you can do the sentence like, oh, I want cookies, you know. And so first you're just saying cookie, then you're saying want cookies or more cookies, and then you can say, I want more, or I want cookies, and so you're building that language. But yes, it is all, you are correct, John. It is also good to expose them to more language, talk about what's going on, talk about what people are doing and seeing as well. You never know what a child's going to pick up on and what's going to make it click for them. So it's good to expose them in all different, watching videos, reading social stories to them, showing them pictures, taking them out different places so they have different experiences. The last thing I had planned to do was just go over some of those signs that American Sign Language, those basic signs that children that you can use every day throughout the day, that they would have a lot of opportunities to use and for you to model for them. What I hear a lot of parents, see a lot of parents post on the Facebook page is that they're waiting for a diagnosis, and they don't have an appointment for 6 more months to get them in to get a diagnosis. And then once they get a diagnosis, it takes a lot of time to get the services started, get somebody in starting to do respite or ABA, or getting them speech therapy set up. So please do not wait around for all that to happen, because the earlier that you start these interventions with them. I have started when I did ABA therapy as young as 18 months with kids, getting in there, starting to work on the nonverbal imitation, getting in there, starting to work on touch your nose, do this, up, do this, getting them focused and interacting and making those connections with the environment as early as possible, because the earlier you start it, the more chance of success and being independent they will be as adults. So the first sign that I use all the time in my classroom with my preschoolers is more. So you want to start off just general. You can use more for anything. More food, more toys, more swinging on the swing, or going to the park. You can say more. And so you just want to work on that. So that's more. And even if a child doesn't do more exactly, you might see them go like this or like this. If you know that that's what they're doing, that's okay. You can still model it more and know that, and you can say, oh, good job, you told me more. But I've seen kids do it like this, because it's hard for them to get their fingers like this, or it might look a little different, and that's okay, as long as it's consistent and you know that that's what they're trying to say. Help. So you can set up a situation where if they're asking for chips and you're handing them a small bag of chips, hand it to them with the bag closed. And then, oh, what do? They can't eat them. Oh, and then they're trying to hand it back to you. Oh, do you need help? You need help. So then you take their hands and you have them do help. And so then, or open. That's what I do with my kids too. Oh, you want it open? So then I take their hands and I make them do open. Oh, here you go. Open it. So that's how you do the signs. And then once they can say open, then you don't expect them to do the sign anymore. Then you're just having them say open and hand it to you, or ask you to open things. Make the cap tight. Do things or hide things from them, so they have to come to you and ask to help you find it. Help. Oh, are you looking for you don't know where your iPad is? Oh, okay. Then you get them to say help. Okay, I'll help you find your iPad. And then instead of going into the specific foods, if you know they want a snack or it's time to eat, you just eat, which is like this, eat. And then drink is like you're holding a cup, drink. And then stop. So if I'm telling my kids to stop doing something or stop running, or they need to stop because they're running, I will do the sign as well. I'll say stop. And then there's go, and then yes and no, and play. Oh, you want to go play? Play. And then clean up. You just wipe your hand like you're wiping dirt off your hand. Clean up. And then school. You clap because a lot of kids go to school. So you can say school. And then home is kind of going where you eat and sleep. So home. The next one is sick. You're kind of, I don't know if you can see, but my lower hand is here. So you have one hand on your stomach, one on your head, and you're kind of going, sick. Are you sick? And you can teach them if they're not feeling well. Oh, sick. And then another one is hurt. So you would take it if you know that they fall and hurt themselves and you see that they're skin their knee or skin their elbow, you can say, oh, hurt. And you do that wherever on whatever body part is hurt. If they hit their head, oh, you hurt your head. And then we have happy. And then sad. You're just kind of like tears are coming down your face. You're sad. You're sad. Because it's really good for them to learn how to express emotions and identify emotions. Mad, like, oh, like you're just grinding your fingers and you're mad. And then scared is like that. Excited is like, oh my gosh, I have so much emotion. I'm excited. And then friend, you're hooking your two fingers together. Friend.
Oh, okay.
And then there's one that I use a lot with my students, wait, because kids have a really hard time waiting. So you're telling them, wait. So I think the three great ones to start with are the more, the help, and then the eating and drinking, because those were things that you would use very often. So, but if you ever, and then there's these signing time videos as well that you can go on YouTube and just type in signing time or signing time with Rachel. She teaches about sign language. And you can also get, buy the school ones or the outdoor ones or colors and numbers and go through all that. But typically what I find with my children that I've worked with autism, you do not have to do the sign language for very long if you're modeling the language along with the sign and you're using it often and consistent, because they start picking it up and then they start doing the sign. They'll be going around going every time they want something and you're going, oh, you want more? Okay, more. Then once they're going more, then you're like, okay, here you go, more. And then you don't have to do the sign anymore. That doesn't mean you stop all the signs. It's just for that one word that they're saying. If they're still having a hard time with help, and then you still want to be modeling help, oh, you need help, but they might go, ha, ha, and that's fine. Oh, you want help? Okay, here you go. And once if they're consistently going, ha, ha, when they need help with something, then you cannot have to do the sign and you can just model help. And you want to make sure they're hearing the rest of the word clearly. Oh, you want help? Okay, here you go. I'll help you with that. So that's pretty much what I have. Let me go through and look at some of the other comments that just came in. So John, you had said that you've, whoops, I just lost that. Chat. So John, you had said that you find that for yourself, you can have much more patience with your issues if you're able to understand how most of society runs, and hence find a way to explain yourself in that context in a way that's more likely to give me standing rather than being written off as someone an incurable misfit. With that said, you have to be picky with which groups to join and on what terms. So are you just saying like you try to associate yourself more with people who can understand where you're coming from and how you look at things and how you learn things, as opposed to people who just won't understand and might judge you or just not even like understand you at all.
Yeah, or then there's those that are, I mean, I've been, honestly, the worst thing is traveling with not much money. You end up just with, honestly, con artists and people who are gonna treat you all kinds of nice and then, try to make their problems yours a little later on. So that's what yeah, that caught me by surprise. But so I don't know. That's I guess what I mean about picky. uh, but I mean, I think it's so important to be okay with moving on. Like sometimes people that reject you are doing you a favor, right? That whole thing. Um, but it still hurts.
Because it's more effort to try to get them to understand where you're coming from than it is to just be like, all right, you're never gonna get it.
Yeah,
Right.
or we're just so, I mean, a lot of people on the spectrum, I think, are pretty notorious for being very, very honest and not getting very deep into the more corrupt culture because of that. And frankly being branded a simpleton by many who that's the culture they know. Um, so they think we're dumb. We're not, but that's what they have to tell themselves. So it's like, okay, you know.
So I had one person ask, how do you lessen word repetition? Echolalia, you're talking about, I'm assuming. Like if you ask something, they will just repeat your question. So the way that you, first of all, echolalia typically goes away. Like if you say, what's your name? Then they say, what's your name? And then they'll say their name. That is when you want to try to have, it's helpful to have somebody else there when you work on a specific skill. So say you are working on telling your name without saying the what's your name part. It's helpful to have a second person there standing behind the child so that you're saying, what's your name? And then they're modeling immediately after that. They're saying, Joey or whatever their name is, so that they can get that, you can get that in and they hear it. Oh, I'm not supposed to say the what's your name part. But also, echolalia typically goes away once they understand communication is two-way street, right? Which is why you're working on that. Right now, in their head, everything is just one way, one way, one way. They just regurgitate what they're hearing because they're not understanding social skills, social norms, communication, where I say this and then you respond with this. Once they learn that and they get more independent and have more vocabulary and more of an understanding about how social skills work, the echolalia always goes away. At least like definitely gets diminished a lot and you don't notice it as much. So, but the way that you can practice it is that, again, have that second person. How old are you? And as soon as the person has to be right on it and ready to talk, like, how old are you? 3. And then hopefully, and then the goal is to just get them to say 3. And you want to try to avoid saying the say a lot, because a lot of people will go say this and then they'll say the say with the response. And so you don't want them to go say 3 as they're answering how old they are. So when you're modeling language, make sure you're just modeling what they should be saying and not the say part along with it. Additional tips on teaching to answer yes or no question. Okay, so I already went over having the little yes, no icons or the yes, no buttons for them. So as you ask them a question, you either have it in front of them on the table or you're holding it up for them to choose. But first, you just want to teach one or the other. You don't want to put them together. So if you're teaching answering yes questions, then you only have the yes in front of them, so they can't get a wrong answer. And so then you just start asking them questions that they would have to say yes to. Do you want a cookie? Then you take their hand. If they're nonverbal, then you take their hand, get them to pick up the yes picture, the yes button, and give it to you. Oh, yes, you want a cookie. Here you go. If they are verbal, then you don't really need the yes picture, but you can still use it to just get that association with the word and picture, but just say, oh, do you want a cookie? Yes. And then once you get them to say yes, then you give them the cookie. Then you work on no separately. And then once or you can do the sign, get them to say yes. So then you can take their hand and have them do the sign for yes. Then you work on no separately. Anything, if you know that they absolutely do not like certain things, then you work on no. You just have to make sure that you're not asking them, do you want this? And telling them no if there's a chance they might actually want it, because then they could get confused with the difference between yes and no. So just make sure you know it's something they absolutely do not want, and then you just work on no, or no thank you, or so that's how you can do that. And then teaching the signs for yes and no as well. And then you can also model it, have someone else ask you questions if they're watching, and then you say, oh, someone could say, oh, do you want this? No. So, and then they're hearing that. Because then you get some kids that'll, like, I get some preschoolers that are like, no, if they don't want something, they'll just push it away, really like jerk it and go, no, or whatever. And then we just model, no, thank you. And you just model that, saying no politely. It's okay to say no, but you need to say it nicely, not, just say no, thank you, or no. How to help them more conversational. Okay, again, you have to start at the basic steps. I know that, you want them to start talking and being conversational, but even typically developing children start with babbling, and then they start with one word, and then they build on 2 words, and then, they'll start putting phrases together. It's no different with children on the spectrum. The only difference is it could happen at a much slower rate, but they do get there. And then you have to model everything for them. And like Josie said, they understand everything that you're saying. So the more you're modeling it and the more you're hearing it, when they do start getting to the verbal stage, you'll start hearing them talking, and then they'll figure it out. Like, oh, then once they are talking and they're making those connections with people and what they're saying and what they're doing, then they're going to start copying and modeling or repeating what they're hearing adults using, if that makes sense. So, but it does have to be, you don't want to just, expect them to start being able to have conversations with you. And children with autism too, you have to teach them how to respond. So when someone says, hi, like, hi, Billy, then you have to have somebody then model, hi, Mom, or back. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you teach kind of that conversation. When someone says, how are you doing today? You would say, then someone's behind them saying, I'm good. How are you? So everything has to be modeled and scripted for them. And then eventually they'll pick it up, and you won't have to model things as often unless it's maybe a new concept for them or some new skill that they've never had to do before. You might still have to break things up for them, like if they've never used a certain tool or never have been to, you know, the beach. Maybe you have to like model things about the beach for them or give them information that they might not know. Tips on how to, oh, right. So any other questions or comments or feedback is great. I'd like to know when I do these, if these help you guys, or if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know, you know, what I'm doing.
I think there's no, as of now, there's no more question, but I think what you have shared is really, really beneficial to all of us, especially when it comes to modeling, modeling the
And I think
language. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing, is I know some people came in a little bit later at different times. Just make sure if you want your children to start, you know, needing to use communication, like I said earlier, children on the spectrum will not talk if they don't have a reason to. And I'm not talking about every single kid, because every kid is different. Maybe you have someone very high functioning that, you know, will pick up on language, but a lot of the kids, especially ones I've worked with, or kids that I've seen or in my, that qualify to be in my special needs classroom, they don't just have that intrinsic need or motivation to want to connect and want to come to you and ask for things and want to come to you and show you something. You have to take them, if they paint a picture, oh, let's go show dad. And then you have to walk them over to their parent and say, look, you model, like, look, and then you teach them to show people what they did. And you have to use things that are very reinforcing for them. If you're trying to, if they don't really care about stickers and you're giving them a sticker every time they use the sign for more, then they're not going to really care about that. But if you're using what they're wanting, what they're asking for, like if they really love, you know, popcorn, oh, and they really want popcorn, then that's when they're going to be more willing to do the sign and you know, communicate and tell you what they're wanting. And then first then statements as well. If they're wanting something, you can stop then and say, oh, do this. Like if you know they're wanting to watch like a video, you can just like, oh, do this. And then if they do it, like, oh, good job, let's do that video, you know. And so I like to say that nothing is free. And when I say free, I don't mean like monetary. It's just that, like I had said in the beginning, if you're just giving them things that you know they want without them having to do something, say something to get it, then they're not going to want to put in the effort to start talking and start communicating. So transactionability, exactly. It's a transaction, it's a give and take, you know, it's a give and take. And yes, exactly. Some people might call it bribery, but you know, that's whatever works. You know, if a kid loves to be tickled and that's motivating for them, then you would want to model, oh, touch your nose or do this, and then they do it, oh, tickle, 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 good job, you know. And then the next one, do this, oh, good. And then you even if you have to take their hands and make them do it, good job, and you give them tickles, because you want them to feel successful, you want them to be motivated, make it fun, use what they already love to do or eat, and get them. And that's how you kind of work on it, and you keep building on the skills. You don't want to keep them at the same level. You're constantly wanting to build on, you know, what they're doing and able to show you. Yes, use their interests for your advantage to teach them language. Exactly. If they absolutely love superheroes, then whatever you can find with superheroes on them, give them time to watch superheroes, buy a superhero, get superhero little figures and have the figure there. And then they don't get it though until they imitate a gross motor movement that you're trying to get them to do, or perform. And I wouldn't keep them there for very long. It should be very quick little. That's what ABA therapy is. I did ABA therapy for 10 years. But all ABA therapy really is just working on the specific skill, and you're being very consistent, and you're giving that immediate feedback, when they're doing something like, and they can't really get it wrong because you're helping them at first get the right answer, or there's only one option. If you're teaching the color red, then you only have something red in front of you, and you're going red, and then you're having them help you, can't give you the red one. Good job, you gave me red. And then you're handing them the reinforcer right away. And then, oh, my turn, then you take it back and you do it again. Because again, consistency and repetition is what helps get them to learn the skills. Your school has comic books, and you still have your list of web comics that I read. It's a deceptively high art. Yep, it is. Anyway.
Yeah, I think comic is really beneficial to kids with autism because it will show them how to interact. It's on a visual way. They will see that they are interacting.
And it's scripted. So
Yeah.
it's scripted for them. Yes, exactly. And they have the picture and the language to go along with it. Anytime you can use a picture along with verbal language, since they're visual learners, that makes it a lot better as well. Visual schedules, having a consistent routine, all that is very beneficial.
So I think that's for now because we already don't have enough time. But I would really, yeah, I would really love to say thank you. Thank you to Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you very much for gracing us again about language and communication. I'm sure that all of us as parents, especially those who are really struggling with this, have a lot of things that we have gotten from this webinar. Especially me personally, I really like the wait time because sometimes even I see it not just from some parents but also from some teachers that they have some frustrations when they see kids as not being able to grasp it immediately. So you have said that we need to have an ample wait time for them to process. Okay,
yeah, it could be 20 seconds to 30 seconds even for a response, and then if you're giving the stimulus, if you're modeling it again, then they have to start all over with the process of hearing it again, and then going through the process of trying to figure out what you said and what they're supposed to say. So make sure you're just waiting and not giving that verbal prompt again too soon.
Yeah, and then also the functional language, we need to really wait for their language to be functional because most of the times our kids are just saying things and we're thinking, oh, it's nonsense. They're just saying things. But I really like when you say that we also have to think about that they will come to reach a point that their language will become functional. And we just have to, okay, there's no free, like you have said, there's no free things, free ride, but it's really, I mean, lots of hard work, patience, and really helping your kids to be able to grasp this thing and understand and be able to say these things. And when it comes to giving prompts, I think it's also good that we are really doing all the effort we can to be able to give them prompts, help them to be able to say it, act if needed, show pictures, everything, just be able to help our kids to have that functional language and be able to communicate verbally to us. Okay, so
Yes,
thank you
and
very
it is a
much.
lot of work in the beginning, but it will pay off when you start hearing your child talking and they're getting it and they're going, oh, I understand now. Then you hear them using sentences and picking up on things. It's definitely worth it, but it can take some time. So just don't give up and keep working on it, and you're going to start seeing the progress.
Yes, and I would like also to thank John for being here, because I also get something from you, John. You know, that thought when you said that you need to tell our kids with autism to to tell them why we are asking them to do something, because some parents really just want them to just giving them commands to kids, do this, do this, do this, or repeat this, repeat this, repeat this, do these things in repetition without even explaining to them why they need to do it. I got that, so I'll do a lot of explaining things also to my kids, to my teenage kid from now on, because I know that now I know that sometimes it will be frustrating for them to do things just being mandate by their parents. Thank you for that thought, Jan.
Well, the I I oh yeah, I think the great riddle of I'm not a parent, by the way, but I'm an adult child who watches Mr. Rogers, and I think that the big riddle of parenting, at least as he describes it, and I know he works with some child psychology people, or he did during his career, and he talks about it's like, well, I mean, like, how do you empathize and also lead? Like, how do you do both? the,
It's
the riddle of parenting, maybe,
true.
right?
It's true. By the way,
So,
everyone, Jan here is an adult with autism. He was diagnosed with autism. So he's being helpful to us right now. So thank you very much. So if I
thank
would
you, Judith.
just, yeah, if I can just share my screen again, I just want to give an encouragement. Of course, we do the science thing, but we also do the spiritual thing, which is the help of God. I just would like to read Psalm 62, verse 1 to 2. I wait quietly before God, for my victory comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will never be shaken. I know that being a parent of kids with autism is really tough, and much more I know being autistic is also very tough. So sometimes you just have to wait patiently, quietly before God and trust Him. I know that in time we will have the victory that we are hoping for, because it comes from Him. In Autism Family Support Group, that is what we are always putting our anchor with. It is in God's help, because we know that we cannot do this all these things alone, but with much more help from God, I know that we will be victorious. We will have the goals that we are aiming for our kids and for our lives. So if we could just pray this prayer all together quietly, just say it with your mouth and just coming from your heart. Let us pray for this. Let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus, I commit myself to you. I acknowledge that you are the source of my strength and wisdom. Guide me in my everyday life, especially in helping my child with special needs. Thank you that you are my help and my provisions. Thank you that you care not just for my child, but even for me. Forgive me for not depending on you most of the times. Jesus, I believe you are God and Savior, and I receive you in my heart. Lead me and help me to follow you every day. Amen. Amen. Okay, so let me just do some quick announcement. So every Friday we have Autism Family Prayer Meeting. We're just going like this in Zoom and just pray together for our kids. So that's just basically it. We just meditate some word of God's just 1 hour, and then we just pray together. So if you want to join, you can always message me or just go on the announcement section in our group. I always put that on the announcement section about our prayer meeting. And of course, we would like to award Ma'am Jennifer with this certificate. Okay, we have a certificate here. I'm sorry, this is
Oh,
just
thank you.
now. Okay, so this certificate of
Oh, thank you. That's so
appreciation,
sweet.
yes, this certificate is proudly presented to Miss Jennifer Llewellyn for gracing us her knowledge and expertise by teaching improving communication and language given this 14th day of June 2022. Ma'am Jennifer, thank you very much
Thank you
from
very
the
much.
bottom of our
Okay.
hearts. Thank you so much. This is for you.
Thank you. This is my passion. I absolutely love talking about this, so I can talk about it forever. So thank you for giving me.
Thank you. So I don't know, but before we ask in closing prayer, some people here are saying thank you from the parents. They learn a lot.
Very
Mommy Annie
welcome.
says they learn a lot. And John says patience is everything. Seriously, yeah, I agree. Okay, they are saying thank you. And Mommy Josie and Miss Jennifer, thank you. Okay, parents, can we just please bear with me? Can we just have a souvenir photo of all of us? If you could just open up your video, we will really appreciate it. We'll just take a photo, souvenir photo of all of us. So we have a souvenir. Hi! Oh, there's a Mommy Cathy. There's Adam there. Yeah, thank you for opening up your video cam. Really appreciate you joining our webinar today. Thank you, parents. Thank you. So, hi. Okay, Danielle Campbell. Thank you. Yes, thank you for opening up your video. So, we would like to say cheese or smile. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Smile, everyone. Okay. So, thank you everyone for joining. Let us close in prayer. Father God, thank you so much for what we learned. Thank you for the life of my mom, Jennifer. I pray that may you bless her more and just help her more in her work, in her engagement with the kids with autism, and Lord, that you just use her more to be able to bless many parents, oh God, and help them in their autism journey. And Lord, you know every one of us here in this Zoom meeting, you know what's going on in our hearts, in our family. Thank you that you are our help. And we thank you for everything we learn. We bless you. We honor you in Jesus' name. Amen. So God bless you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.